are. Welcome back to the studio. I'm glad you made it through to 2017. Well, after a little time to recoup and recharge my batteries, I'm ready to go for 2017. I'm going to start off slow a little bit. We're going to hit the ground running and go from there. I'll tell you what I've got for you tonight. We're going to paint something simple, a still life, an apple. This is a picture I found on the website PMP Art. If you don't know, it's a website where artists can go and post photos or get photos that you are allowed to use to paint and draw and have fun with. And the only thing they ask is that if you use their photo, you put it back on their site and you give the person who took the image credit for it, and then you're free to do with it what you want. So I did a little test. This is what I came up with. We're going to do something kind of like that. And I'm going to walk you through a new palette that I got, which is an old palette that I've got, which is kind of new. Well, at least to you. Well, it is to me. Well, we'll get into that in just a little bit. But anyways, let's get on with the painting. Okay, here we are, right on the desk. We are ready to go. First of all, let's get through a few things. The brushes I'm going to be using are Princeton Neptune brushes. They're a fake hair, a faux hair. I'm not sure what they are. I thought they were squirrel, but I'm not sure. They hold a lot of water in them, and you can make a pretty good point, pretty good tip with them. But just in case I need to do a little bit finer work, I have a Grumbacher number 2 rigger brush that I'm going to use for any fine detailing work. I am using a B paper that you have seen me use before, just a small square that I bought online, right? And the paints that I'm going to be using are these. I actually got these. Let me open this up. I actually got these paints at an estate sale in a bucket like this, and this is what I got. And I bought it for, I don't know, 12 bucks or something like that. It was very cheap. Actually, I can tell you, I see a few of them in here that I didn't buy in there that were mine that I purchased. There we go. That looks about right. And I kind of set the whole box of them off to the side and didn't do a whole lot with them. And you've seen me using the other travel tins that I have. I really like those ones, but I got this tin, and I got some new pans that went in it. Oops, I can't pull one out now. I'm gonna get my fingers all wet. And I just went, well, I'm gonna set up my own. So I set out all the colors that I have all over the place, and I made my sheet here, and you can see I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got Hobline watercolors, I've got Sennelier watercolors, I've got Daniel Smith watercolors, I've got Winsor Newton watercolors. But from what I have in the estate sale find, I set this up, and oops, let me set my colors right over here. And that's actually what I made this from, which was a test I did last night. And I'll tell you, it's not brilliant. It's fine. It's been so wet here, I couldn't get this to dry. And it took me, this looks like a very simple painting. It took me, oh, I'll bet 45 minutes to get this, because I had to get it wet, do a little painting, and then I have a space heater. I'd put it on the space heater, then I would bring it back. And it just took me forever to do it. So it's a little bit drier today. I'm hoping everything's going to hold out fine. And we are going to get going. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to put mine down here by comparison. And I'm going to tell you what we're going to do before we do it. I'm going to paint everything that's an apple, this one and this one, in this nice fleshy yellowish color, okay? And if that shows through the reds that we put on there, a little bit of green or brown that we put on there, that's fine. We're totally fine with that, but I want to get that nice base down there. And before I go too far into it, I'm actually going to put in this background, because I don't want to have on this painting this kind of white spot here and white spot there all around. I'm going to get rid of that right off the top. So having said that, I bring my colors over here. Let's see, I think I have them set up this way. I am going to start mixing just in this corner, just a really nice light green. And if you're keeping track at home, this is Hooker's Green Light. There we go, just a nice little mixture of that. Actually, I should say, I got so much stuff at that estate sale. If you guys really want to see what I got more than just a paint. I got a mountain of paper. I got a stand. I got all kinds of stuff, and I paid total for it. Ooh, I think was somewhere in the neighborhood of $120 for everything, which for me is an exorbitant amount of money. But if you were to see what I got, you would go, holy cow, I can't believe you got that much for only $120. So if you have any interest in seeing what I got, just let me know. Leave a comment below, and I'll go back and just throw together a quick video. You can see all the stuff that I got with that, and just use it as a reminder. If you're out and about, holy cow, make sure you check in your local neighborhood, garage sales, estate sales, any place you can find. Anybody and everybody could be selling artists' equipment, or in this case, watercolor paints and brushes and whatnot. I found some at the, we don't have a Goodwill in our town. We have a thrift store. I don't know what you call it. I guess you call a Goodwill a thrift store. Ours is called, what is ours called? The Achievement House. Ours is called the Achievement House. And I walked in there one day and I found all kinds of paper. Actually, it's colored watercolor paper, which I thought was neat. I could bring that out and show that too. It's colored watercolor paper, which is really neat. So like if I were to do this painting, I could just pull out a sheet of green paper and I would automatically have the background. Or I could pull out, in this case, a sheet of yellow paper and just let that be the color of the apple itself, and then add on everything on top of that. That might be an interesting thing to show. I haven't used that all that much. I haven't used colored paper all that much, but it's really neat. So again, if you have an interest in that, let me know. Just drop a comment, and I'll work it in at some point. So okay, I've got my green on there. It's starting to dry. It's doing a decent job here. I'm just gonna try to put my flesh colored on here without touching any of that green, and with any luck I can do that. We're going to be putting on a skin on the apple anyway, right along the outside, right? Our red skin, you can just see it in the photo there. So if we don't touch that green, we're totally fine. We just don't want right now that green to run into our yellow. If it runs in where we have the skin of the apple, well, I'm okay with that. That's not so important. And if we get some yellow into the green going out the other way, that's fine too. That's not such a big deal. But let's just get this yellow on here as our base color, and we'll go from there. I don't know if you guys can see it. I should just twist this paper just ever so slightly. Let me see if you can see it. I've got, there you can see just a little sheen on there. I've still got puddles of green on here that just are not drying. I was hoping it was going to be a little bit better today for drying in here. We're going to work with it. We're going to make it work for us. This is really light, so let me zoom you in here. Okay, and if I didn't tell you what I used, This yellow, I did a mix of these two. This is Lemon Yellow by Winsor Newton, and this is a Winsor Newton Aurelian. Aurelian? Somebody will tell me how to say that exactly. It's something like that. And so that's just a mix of those two. It's just a nice soft yellow color. That's all I'm looking for right there. All right, so I'm going to get a little bit of this, which is a Daniel Smith Pyrrole Red, a very nice fiery red. And I'm going to make a nice little puddle of it here. I don't want a super amount. There we go. Whoa, what am I doing? I'm way off the side. I'm sorry. I'm using this color right here, putting it into this little tray, making it nice and soupy, not super strong. And I'm just going to come back onto my apple over here, and I'm just gonna make some nice sweeping lines, and I'm gonna do it in the shape of the apple itself. So right like that. And I know it's still wet. I know it's gonna run all over the place, but I want to block in a little bit of this color. So let me turn that just a little bit. Just want to block in a little bit of this red. We do have some of the yellow underneath, which is going to mix with it a little bit. Again, that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it at this point. What I want is to start building up a little bit. I'm not going to go too close to... I know I'm back in a habit of flipping my page around. Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it works against me. I'm going to try to leave it like that. I'm going to try not to get it on this apple over here, my red, because I don't want too much to bleed in there. If I get a little bit, I'm not going to worry about it. I don't know if you've seen my videos, especially at the end of last year. I'm kind of gotten over the part where I'm too worried about what happens with the color, whether it flows exactly where it's supposed to go to or whether it doesn't. Watercolors, my philosophy is watercolors are supposed to flow. They're supposed to go everywhere. Our job as a painter is to just kind of guide them in the right direction. And so I'm trying to allow the watercolor just to go and have fun on the page and do what it's supposed to do. All right, whoa, holy cow. All right, I'm getting into a little yellow ochre here, and my yellow ochre is not hardened here at all. There's a lot of gum base in there. And so when I touched it with my brush, I got this big long thing that came out. So I'm just going to try to water that down a little bit. And I'm going to just come into here. I know, and somebody's going to say, well, you can't go back and paint on a wet surface because it's gonna bloom and it's gonna do whatever. It's gonna run and it's gonna bloom and you're gonna hate it and blah blah blah. Well, you know what? This is an early layer for this apple. We're gonna do at least one more layer on top of this. I'm hoping to get a little bit of color into that. So if it runs a little bit, if it blooms a little bit, you know what? That's just going to be underneath, and it's going to give a lot of texture to that apple. So don't always give too much credence to what you should do when you paint or what they say you should do. I love listening to them. They always know how to paint. All right, I'm going to leave it just like that. I've got a little bit of yellow ochre on here, right? My yellow ochre from here, my mix of Aurelian and lemon yellow, and just a green background. I'm going to take it and put it on the dryer. I'll be right back, and we'll go on with another coat onto here. Okay, here we are. We are back, and as you can see, we're all dried off. It feels good, nice and dry. And our blooms ran out. Big deal. You know what? By the time we get another layer on there, that's just going to be some character on the skin of that apple. I think it looks great. So let's do this. Let's take our brush into our red mixture. I'm going to make this, actually, you know, before I do that, I'm going to come up here and I'm just looking at this, and I put a little bit of ochre color up here, but I'm seeing a little bit of green in there. So I'm going to mix up just a little bit more of my Winsor green, and I'm going to put that in a couple of places here. Just, I don't need a ton of it. I think that looks good right there. I'm just giving it a little bit of a softer edge. There we go, right on the back of there. And I'm gonna leave my little puddle of green, my tiny little puddle of green there, and I'm gonna come back because we're gonna use a little bit in here. But what I want to do on my second layer is I'm gonna start building up down here, right where it's a little bit darker, a little bit redder here. And on the outside over here where it's a little bit darker and a little bit redder. And we're gonna do that by using something a little bit darker and a little bit redder. So I'm going to take my Winsor red. Actually, I'm going to use both of these colors of red. And I'm going to mix in on this palette. I just happen to have a little bit of sepia, which is just a brown, a warm brown tone. And I'm going to mix some of that. And I'm going to come right down along, and this is really going to help to define my apple. The apple behind, well, the apple in front too. I guess we're doing a little bit of a negative bit of painting right there. So as I put in that darker shade, that's also going to tell us exactly where that lighter shade is. Right? And I don't want it just to be totally dark. I'm going to mix back in with that some of my lemon yellow, and then I'm going to let that pull itself out a little bit. I know this may not be the quickest method to do this, but it's going to work pretty nicely, I think. Ugh, my paper's warped just a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use some of that red mixture, and I'm going to put it on the outside over here. I think I need to make just a little bit more of that. Just, here we go, right on the outside. I know that this side is fairly dark, so I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to put some of that on. Just about like that. And I'm going to take a different color. This time I'm going to use the what is this? My ochre, and I'm going to use that to pull that color out just a little bit. There we go. And so what I've tried to do a little bit is to get a darkness on the edge of that apple, but not necessarily. That was a little watery there. Not necessarily on the part of the apple that's, you know, closest to us. I want that maybe to be a little bit lighter in value. So I'm going to leave that with a little less of my brown and a little bit more of the yellow. That's why I blended the yellow going towards that center. Now I'm looking at it and I think, well, I could use a little bit more of that dark down in this area, right? And I could use a little bit more of some light up here. I'm going to lighten up my green a little bit. I'm going to put some of that up here, and I'm not going to put all of it up there, but I want to bring some a little other color into this apple. There we go, and you see as I blend that in, Now it looks like there's a nice green area, nice delicious green area you want to take a bite out of on that apple right there. And I'm just going to continue. I'm going to put a little bit more of my dark on right back there and mix that around. And I'm going to drop down one size in my brush because I'm not confident so much in my brush stroke with that bigger brush. What size is this one? This is a number 2. Okay, and I'm going to get a little bit of my red color. I'm going to leave it a little more red and a little less brown. And I'm going to come right across the top and define the spot on the apple where I want it to curve back in at. And it looks like I've missed my mark. It ran just a little bit, but you can see that apple now looks like it's got some life to it anyways. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing down at the bottom. I'm going to continue to use my number 2 brush because this is a pretty small area down here, but I'm going to get some red, and some of that sepia, so it's, you know, nice and dark. This area is in a shadow for us. I'm going to put that on, and then I'm going to mix up. Actually, you know what I'm going to use? I'm going to use the yellow ochre that's there, and I'm going to let those two kind of touch and mix and get happy together. There you go, just like that. And as they mix, I hope you can see, zoom. There you go. I hope you can see that what is really happening is that they're not becoming homogeneous down here, right? There's still a lot a darker area down here and a lighter area up there. And so there we go. And so, since we have that gradient, gradient, well, gradient, 3, well, only 3 syllables. I thought it was 4 syllables there for a second, but that would be a really big word for me. But as we have that mixing in there and a gradient and some modeling, well, that gives us a lot of really great texture in there. All right, so while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to come over to my palette. I'm going to mix up a little bit of the sepia over here. And I'm going to very gently, let's see if I can do it, put in a little spot on the core where the seeds might be. Of course, I did that off camera. You back that out just a little bit. In fact, it'll be better if I got my rigger brush. I'm a little rusty, it seems, after not having done this for a little while. All right, I'm going to put just a little bit of sepia in there. We're going to have to come back and darken that up in a little bit, and I realized that actually maybe I could just tap right into the center of it. Let it darken itself up. There it's going to go. That'll spread out a little bit. So all I did there is I had a nice little puddle of water on the apple. I just got the very tip of my rigger brush, put it right directly into my sepia, and then right onto the apple seeds. And it just took itself and went right away with it. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to mix up some of my ochre with some of my Aurelian here, and I'm going to make a nice color. It's just a little bit darker than the color we started with because I want to define these areas. Ooh, let's come down a little bit. I want to define these areas right around there and around the edge here. And I'm going to use, there it is, I'm going to use that color to do it. So, my green is dry. I don't have to worry about touching that. I'm just going to kind of grab real lightly right in there. There we go, and that comes down. Let's see, and I've got a couple of streaks inside the apple that come down and around, and on this side of the core looks kind of like that. I know that's light. I'm hoping you guys can see some of this. I'm just going to put in a little extra line over here. We're still going to go and put our red in over there. I want to have just a little bit more of that in just in front of that red, just in front of the skin. There we go. I think that is pretty good. All right, I'm going to go back to my, what is this, the one I've been using, my number 6. I think I've got to tighten this up here just a little bit, put my stem in. Maybe I could darken a little bit down here. I think that's probably a good idea. I'm going to go back to my sepia and red mixture. In this case, I'm using the Windsor Red. It's a nice red-brown mixture there. And I'm going to turn it and get it in the screen so you can see. And I'm just going to put another little layer of that on, just following what I did before. Now you could have, if you wanted to, you could have put that on a little bit darker to begin with. That would have been an acceptable thing to do. I didn't do that. I'm beginning to actually believe what people tell me when they say more layers are better than fewer. But it's taken me quite a while, admittedly, to get to that part of my life. But we're going to try, or I'm going to try anyways, to obey that, at least for a little while. Alright, and I'm going to just darken up the shadow section on the other side. As you can see, I am doing badly here. I'm off. Every time I think I'm in frame and I look up, I'm not even close to being in frame. And you guys are nice enough not to mention that to me. Probably you should. I'm going to go right along there. That's what I want the top of that apple to be. And I'm just going to blend that right on down. This brush holds an exorbitant amount of water. There we go. And I don't want to do anything else with this apple, I don't think. I want to get rid of that straight line. It looked like I had a straight line there. I don't think I want to do anything else with that apple. I'm actually pretty happy with that apple. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a green here, Windsor green, and what is this? A Viridian. Right here. It's just real loose because I am going to use that. I know you're looking at it and you're going, oh my God, that is green. What is he doing? But remember, it's going to dry lighter than it is, and we're going to go back over top of that, so we're not going to worry too much about it. And I'm just looking down here. What I'm going to do, we're almost done, trust me, we're getting there. I'm going to take my little bigger brush. I'm going to go into my French ultramarine. Come on, come on, it's dry, it's dry. It's been sitting open all night to try and dry up a little bit. And just a dab, that's much more than a dab, all right. Just a dab of my Windsor Red to make a nice purpley color. I hope you can see that as I move that around. That's what I'm going to use as my shadow color. So I'm going to, So just take a look to see how I'm going to do this. There's my shadow on my first apple. And the shadow on my second apple. Let's see, that's bigger, isn't it? So it's got to be a bigger shadow. It's going to have to go up higher that way. There we go. Is going to look just about like that. Ah, there we go. I'm totally stoked with that. That's great. I've got one thing to do here. I'm going to go back into my sepia. I'm going to put a little bit of brown on each end of the apple here, where the core ends. There we go. Oh, we're getting close. Oh, you know what we didn't do? Holy cow. All right, so I've got my red. It's got just a little bit of brown in it. I'm mixing it over here. Shoo. I almost forgot. You almost let me forget that I needed to just put a skin. God bless it. Just put a skin on the outside of that apple. And I can do this, if I can do this carefully, excuse me, if I can do this carefully, I can clean up a lot of these lines while I do this. There we go. And I do need to flip it around for this. Ever so carefully. I'm trying to be extra careful because I don't want to put in a big fat line. You know, I guess I could get an even smaller rigger brush, like a size 0 or 00 or something like that. I could do that, and then that would allow me to just, you know, use a little bit more pressure as I push on there. But I don't really want to do that. Okay, so what you're seeing me do right here is just with a little bit of the sepia going back in and darkening up the stem on that apple. And we are almost done, believe it or not. Give me 1 second to dry this. We're going to try one thing out at the end. I don't know how it's going to work, but we're going to try it out. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we are. We're back. This is the last thing I want to try. I haven't done this before, but I saw somebody do this, and it looked like a kick to me. I'm going to try it. So, our apple in our picture has a number of spots on it. I don't know if you can see them, but it's got some spots on it. So what I'm going to try to do is do a little splattering with my toothbrush here. I hope it works out, and really curious if it's going to work out. I think it will. If not, it's going to be fun anyways. And so I've just put a little bit of yellow ochre on that brush, and I'm going to splatter this apple, and with any luck, that's going to provide just a little bit of texture to our skin. Now, I know you're going to have a hard time seeing it on the video. I'm hoping that you're going to be able to see it on the picture that I take of it. In fact, I better take all this stuff off, because if I missed anywhere, I want to be able to dab just a bit of it off. I didn't do the best job of masking everything off. There we go. But that's basically it. There it is. There's my apple. That's how I'm starting the new year. I hope you had a great time. I had a great time. I look forward to painting with you again this year. I hope you come back to the studio. I do have some big things planned. Stay tuned in the next coming weeks. We're going to have fun this year. Thanks so much, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.